What is the most fricked up thing you have eavesdropped? I was a kid, maybe 10ish, and I was homesick from school one day. My dad left my door ajar to hear me in case I started to vomit. He thought I was asleep, but I could hear him talking to his best male friend at the time out in our family room. Dad's friend was telling him about how he cheated on his wife and how good it was, and he asked my dad if he ever cheated on my mom. Even at that age I knew it was wrong and my heart raced as I listened for his answer. To this day, I'm in my 30s. I am very proud of my dad for saying no. I had a chance to. My brother's wife put her hand between my legs but I shoved her away. You know I love my mom's name. I never did tell anyone about that. My parents are still together. First off, I wear hearing aids. When I was in elementary school, I had a mic that was on a necklace and my teacher would wear it. It transmits to my hearing aid. Anyways, she was talking about her weekend out drinking and sleeping with strangers. It was worst when she realized she left the mic on. This is sitcom level crap. When I was a little kid, like 5 years old, I really wanted this stupid stamp set in the Family Dollar. My mom and I walked there for her to buy tampons. We found both in the clearance bin. I overheard her talking to the lady at the cash register when price checking them about how she only had money for one of the items and that she was going to buy me the stamp set over the tampons that she needed. I'm 21 now and I never told my mom that I heard that. She always pretended that we had enough money, but she would skip meals or give up her stuff to make sure we had enough, and it breaks my heart to think about it. I know it's not super fricked up, but still. Take good care of her. She clearly loves you. My husband and I were at McDonald's. We took our son to the play place to try to let him burn off energy so we could finish grocery shopping. A mother was in there with her 3 kids. One by one she would make each one of them sit down and was interrogating them. Where did your dad sit at the spring concert? Who did he sit by? Did he sit by Mason's mom? Did he talk to any of the other moms? Was he laughing and smiling when he talked to Carter's mom? Did you guys come right home afterwards? She was writing it all down. Each child was not allowed to go play unless they answered her questions. WTF. Ugh, I hate it when parents use the kids in a messy divorce. I was listening to 2 of my kindergarten students talk about Christmas the day before break. One asked, "Do you believe in Santa?" The other replied, "Yes, but he doesn't come to my house because I'm in foster care." I was fixing a woman's computer when she got the phone call that her mother had suddenly died. She went from powerful executive assistant to fragile little girl in 3 seconds. It was heartbreaking. I've been bitten in the nuts by 2 separate Scottish terriers. I've never wanted to chase someone down the street and ask to hear the rest of the story so bad in my life. This one is weirdly calming. Normally it wouldn't be, but I just read about someone's dad hanging himself, a man beating his wife, and people possibly shooting and throwing someone in a river, so a story involving dogs seems lighthearted in comparison. Unless they bit him because he was trying something shady with them, then never mind. Worked at a summer camp for a few years. I'm convinced kids don't realize you can hear them even when you're in the same room literally 3 feet away unless you're looking directly at them. Best conversation I ever heard was between 2 9-year-olds. Kid 1. My brother is totally going through puberty and he's only 11. Kid 2. Lucky. Kid 1. I know he even has armpit hair. Kid 2. If I had armpit hair I'd shave it off and glue it on my face. Kid 2. That's a great idea. Me? Kids are insane. I love it. I was in a holding cell in Washington, D.C., and I overheard a guy bragging to the other prisoners about the murder he committed. He said some dude was hitting up his girl's cell phone, so he used her phone to arrange a beating with the dude in her car under some bridge. He was waiting in the back seat of the car when the dude got there. He out his girl's phone in the front seat as bait. When the dude went in the car, he cut his throat, then burned the car. I'll never forget his deep, raspy voice, and the pride with which he spoke. It's haunting. Sitting behind 2 teenagers on the train. Guy, you let him see M inside of you. Girl, well, not all the way. I finally understand teen pregnancy. Dunno if this qualifies, but it should. I was photographer at a wedding and while the bride was getting ready I heard 2 bridesmaids, mid-20s, talking. One said to the other about how she had recently found out that beans, probably as in the baked variety, were not bits of potato as she had always thought. They're fricking beans. When I read this I thought it would be the stereotypical, she fricked the best man, or something like that. Glad with the outcome here. I was at Disney in high school and I heard a guy say to someone, "You're tickety but ain't good enough to eat, so put your shoes back on." I'm 35 and still have no idea what that meant. No tiggity, I got to bag it up. Not fricked up, just sad. Around 2004 or 2005, I was at a meeting. During a bathroom break, I heard two men talking. One of them had a brother who was killed in the 9/11 attack on the Pentagon. Shortly after the attack, the brother's widow gave birth to their second child. A year or so later, the mother died of cancer. The man speaking adopted his brother's kids. He and his wife had never planned on having kids, but they stepped up to raise them. It was a big adjustment, but he loved the kids and was doing the best he could for them. That man is an awesome human being and someone should give him a medal. Don't let family members' kids go into foster care. Everyone I meet who goes into a random foster home ends up being fricked up at the end of it. When the police showed up at my door to tell me that my upstairs neighbor was dead, I overheard the EMT say we're going to have to double bag him. Then I heard my neighbor's double bagged body being dragged down the narrow staircase because a stretcher wouldn't fit. Thump, thump, thump. For what it's worth, the EMTs and police were also upset about having to do that. I picked up the house phone to find a conversation already in progress, and that's how I learned my stepdad was having an affair with his brother's wife. A bunch of junkies planning how they are gonna rob someone for money to get their next hit. I got out of there real fast. Yup, overheard similar thing at bus stop yesterday. Needless to say, I took the first bus and walked the rest. When I was maybe 10 or 11, I overheard my stepmom talking to my friend's mom about my puppy that had recently disappeared. I learned the puppy had not run away, but that my stepmom had drove it to the middle of nowhere and set it free because she didn't want to have a puppy in the house. One co-worker to another, as I walked in. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like black people, I just don't think I could join the clan. Moments ago I was telling a likely former friend he'd surpassed his quote of saying I'm not a racist, and now I come across I'm a racist, but I think I've interneted enough today. My brother overheard my dad tell my mom he wished I had gone to Vietnam. That put at least 10 layers of security between us for over 10 years. I caught my dad choking his chicken when I was in high school. I woke up really early and went to get a drink. I walked down the stairs and saw that the TV was on and playing one of those commercials for Girls Gone Wild. I looked at the couch and my dad was jerking it, but didn't notice me because my dad was pretty old and had bad hearing. I don't know if he saw me, but I rushed to the bathroom and stayed quiet in the dark until I thought he was finished. LOL. I felt bad for him and wanted him to at least finish. Best single dad in the world and I miss him and I always laugh at that memory of him. My dad's girlfriend is a special education teacher. I heard her telling my dad about a student she had with Down syndrome. The kid had pretty crappy parents and lived in the rough part of town. Anyways, he never brushed his teeth and as a result, his teeth were rotted and he had to get them all pulled. He was given pain medication, but his mother ended up taking all the pills herself. The boy would be in so much pain in class that he would have to be taken out of class because he couldn't stop yelling. He yelled so much that the stitches in his mouth ultimately ripped. As far as I know, the boy still lives with his mother. I don't know why nothing was done about this. It makes me angry. Overheard my wife saying you look really handsome, babe. She was on a FaceTime call with a guy she was cheating on me with and didn't hear me coming early from work. Still the hardest thing I've ever heard. I listened in the hallway for a few minutes, then packed a bag and left. 10 years of marriage and we have a 2-year-old. It's pretty insane. Lots of sad stories in this thread, so let me lighten things up a bit. I work from home for a company based in Los Angeles, and each morning my engineering team convenes for a meeting. The new guy forgot to mute his headset, and we all torturously ignored him masturbating for 5 minutes. Our meeting was like Yeah, so staccato breathing, I committed those changes to SV staccato breathing N. Today, I'll be small groany working on changes to the staccato breathing. Increasing pace mobile report. Shuddering sigh. I should mention that if someone is talking, or driving, or whatever in the background, we always let them know they need to go to on mute. In this case though, 15 people sat on the phone and talked over him. Not sure if it was a lack of guts, or we just didn't have the heart to embarrass him, but there was no mistaking what we heard. Sat on a bus home from work a couple of years back. An attractive young lady, blonde in her 20s and dressed in smart business gear, got on and took a seat. If you'd seen the state of the bus, usually you'd understand why she caught my attention. Anyway, she picks up the phone and starts having a full conversation. The biggest 180 on a first impression I've ever had. Starts talking about her 2 kids who got taken into care because her and her ex couldn't stop beating each other up. The cracker of a quote was, "I'm not even sure they'll let me keep the one inside me yet." All this was a soundtrack to a silent bus. Not really eavesdropping when it's so in your face, but shocking all the same, as this fairly normal 20-something revealed openly her mental home life. Let's hope that it was made up and intentionally loud to keep the possibility of unwanted suitors away. I was sitting next to a cutesy couple in 10th grade English class and I saw her mouth the words "impregnant." I can see the plane crash going through his eyes. I'm sure there is worse I've heard, but my memory is that of a goldfish. I woke up around midnight on Easter when I was about 6 to hopefully get a glimpse of the Easter bunny, only to hear my mom crying to my dad on the phone, divorced, to come get my brother and I because she has no money to get us any chocolate. She was hysterical. I went back to bed and pretended to be surprised when my dad was there as the morning to come get us. He told us that the Easter bunny got mixed up about what house we were going to be at. Props to your mum for asking for help when she needed it, and props to your dad for giving the correct answer. I was at a music festival a few years back, asleep in the tent at about 9:30 AM, and I woke up to 2 guys speaking in panicked voices outside the tent saying, "I know we gave him the pills, but it wasn't our fault he took them all. It's not our fault we brought him to the first aid tent. What more could we do?" and more to that effect. They also said that they had written on his arm that he had taken 5 pills and dropped him at the first aid tent. As soon as I heard them leave, I stuck my head out of the tent to see my best friend with her head out of her tent, both of us wondering what the frick that was about. Then, we found a bag of white powder and about 25 pills in baggies which these guys had just dropped to get rid of any evidence. Maybe an hour later, we heard that someone had died at the festival from taking 5 pills and overdosing. The penny dropped as we joined the dots between the conversation we had overheard, the discarded drugs and the death. Very creepy. Was once walking behind 2 really good looking girls in the street and heard one say to the other, "I was so constipated yesterday I just wanted to get it out with an ice cream scooper." My mother recently said she'd been constipated for so long it felt like she had appendicitis and she practically needed a jackhammer to get the crap out of her. But, thanks for that, Mom. Once I got a ride in the casual commute lane with 2 women in a gold Mercedes. I sat in the back while they carried on with their conversation. They spent about 10 minutes talking about a friend of theirs who was looking so great after she had lost a ton of weight. After a pause, one of them said, "Too bad about the cancer." This morning my brother overheard 2 schoolboys talking about Chloe refusing to wank off Jake, so Jake asked her friend instead. They were about 13 years old. Heard this conversation at my dining hall. "Don't eat fries that you dropped on the floor, that's disgusting. Sarah, I've literally have had my tongue in your butthole. I think I'm fine." About 11 years ago, at high school, one of my friends found her father hanged in the backyard. They were a really nice family and he was a great guy too. They had these cafes at libraries and the food was great, but his wife had an affair with her personal trainer and, probably, he knew. And if I recall correctly, they had some financial issues as well. He arranged his clothes for the next day as he did every day. It was a shock for everyone. We were in the middle of a class when we discovered it. We gathered ourselves and the school's coordinator, and after some discussion he let us leave early to support our friend. She was in shock, complete disbelief, wasn't even crying. The funeral was arranged for the next day. His family flew from another state to say their last goodbye. It was scheduled to 3 p.m. and after the priest's speech, he avoided any excitation of some sorts, just said something about disturbed souls and their path to heaven. They started burying him, and the widow starts to cry really hard. Then I overheard one of his relatives, probably his sister. What the frick she thinks she's doing? She killed him. Oh my god, I hate her so much. It's not that fricked up as others' comments, but the suffering and hate mixed together made this day really unforgettable. I was upstairs in the church organ loft looking through music on a quiet weekday. Downstairs I heard a conversation going on, so I peered over the loft railing and saw the pastor sitting in a pew, talking with a young female. She was telling him that she was strongly attracted to the church's deacon, a single guy, early 30s, and wanted to know if he would introduce them. I could tell that the pastor got flustered because he had eyes on the deacon to become a priest, not to date women. For her part, the girl told the priest that she wanted to save the deacon from a boring life of celibacy. Pastor, I want to frick his brains out. Let him try this, and if he still wants to be a priest, you've got a really devoted man. A very young girl gave her mother a picture she drew as a gift while on public transportation. The mother then rudely rejected the gift. That made me quite sad. Man, that reminds me of the time I gave my mom a pretty heart necklace for Christmas and she rejected my gift because it was not real diamonds. I was 15. Frick, my mom was a huge jerk. I only had her so I didn't have to go to work. My mother about my younger sister. Turns out that as I got old enough to need less supervision, my mother realized that she'd suddenly be expected to actually make financial contributions like a normal person. That clearly wasn't for her, so accidentally got pregnant again. Took me a long time to realize what I'd actually heard. When I was 16, I served a customer who was switching between ordering food with me and organizing for somebody to go beat up a guy for hitting a significant female in his life. Yo, cheeseburger medium. Hey Bobber and Spiky, get your brass knuckles. Cheese fries please. We're gonna throw down on that dude who hit that female. She's pretty damn significant to me. Extra ketchup. Overheard the end of a conversation that completed with a very large, emo, gay Mexican boy telling an incredibly skinny girl, and then I said to her, "That's the bed I did your brother in," and I slapped her in her face. Once overheard a few people talking about kidnaps on my work. They were talking about doing it. I work at a restaurant in Brazil and there were 4 guys talking about kidnapping someone. They were dead serious. I overheard them through a thin wall. Worst part? They were cops. They still come to eat here from time to time and are notoriously dirty. One of them have a $500,000 car while getting less than $2,000 a month. I never did anything about it. Who would I call? The other dirty cops? Stay safe. Was traveling with a friend, through Honduras, and in the hostel we were staying at we met this cool Aussie lesbian. One morning they were chatting right next to me as I woke up but didn't immediately get up and start talking. I realized they were talking about me, my friend, who I had known for a few years, and had a FWB thing with in the past, was telling her that she thought I was transgender. I'm not. It was really strange to hear someone tell an almost complete stranger her opinions about my own personal gender identity. Was at a 24 diner breakfast joint in DC on a Sunday. A guy and 2 trashy looking women at the counter next to us were planning out a porno shoot. Not joking about it or anything, like it was all set, and they were just figuring out some details. One time my mom told me to text my dad about something. I completely forgot what it was, and I saw just a crap ton of dirty messages. RIP, soul and innocence. In a weird sort of way, this makes me happiest of all of the responses. Everyone else is talking about terrible things happening and weird crap going on, but this one shows parents still keeping it spicy in a modern way, even with children. Not fricked up, bit funny. Sat at a booth in a Panera behind 2 older ladies 50-60ish. One goes, "He said that was the worst tasting granola I've ever had." And I said, "That wasn't granola, it was potpourri." Everyone at our table died laughing. Overhearing a girl I had a huge crush on in high school sophomore year talk to her friends about her boyfriend fisting her so hard she crap a little on his arm. The level of my crush on her deflated a bit after that. An old Jewish couple was arguing at the grocery store about whether or not they should buy X brand of cookies. even though Y brand was $0.50 cheaper. The man said if he had married Edith instead of his wife, Edith would have let him get the nicer brand of cookies. His wife replied she could have married Xavier and actually been wealthy and not living in a rat-infested apartment. I like to think Edith and Xavier ended up together after the assumed respective breakups with the other couple. They live in a nice, rat-free apartment and get the good cookies because they are wealthy. While traveling in my native state in India, I heard two men talking about their daughter sister who had married a boy from another caste in a city our bus was heading to. After talking for a while how she dishonored them and their family name, I suddenly spotted something poking from one of the dude's pocket, a revolver. I immediately thought of the worst thing they could do and had them both arrested when we arrived in the city. Guess what they were gonna do? My brother and I sat on the back stairs and listened to my father holding a knife to my mother's throat. They had both gotten drunk that afternoon, a summer Saturday, and had gotten into some kind of tiff at the dinner table. My mother threw her plate at my father. It bounced on the table in front of him and broke into shards, one of which cut him pretty badly on the arm, and he was explaining to her, with a knife to her throat, that she was to never, ever disrespect him again. He then called all the kids downstairs and made her formally apologize to us for being a bee. I was about 13 when this happened. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.